NeonicVoid Productions presents.
Okay, whatever gets your ass to Timer Gaiden alive, we're gonna do it. But what convinces Rand to accept her as one of his counselors, as his advisor, Min, when she first sees Cadswain, she sees that Cadswain is actually is actually probably the only Aes Sedai he can truly trust, and she tells him that, and she also tells him that Cadswain is going to teach him something. She doesn't know what, but she is going to teach him something that will help him in the end.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, not much is going to be done with Cadswain in this book. Unfortunately, I just want to gush over her for a bit because she's a badass bitch.
She a baddie.
All right, she a baddie. Like she straight up bitch slapped Rand because the Aes Sedai, and there are several weaves that they consider forbidden. Weaves of compulsion are forbidden, and also balefire is a forbidden weave because balefire is very dangerous. In fact, during the War of Power 3,000 years ago, so many channelers were throwing balefire around it nearly broke the pattern. And because balefire isn't just a stream of light, isn't just a beam of light that burns you or disintegrates you, it literally burns your thread from the pattern.
Damn.
So you are erased from existence. Depending on how powerful the channeler is, you're erased back in time. So it may look like you were killed like in this moment with Balefire, but Balefire punched through the timeline and erased you maybe like a couple hours or a few days or even a few years. So everything that you've done is gone. You're gone. Because Balefire said, "Now you've been gone for 3 days, and anything you've done in those 3 days is undone."
Jesus.
So imagine all these channelers in the War of Power just throwing Balefire left and right. All that's causing like fluctuations in the pattern, and it's disrupting time. It damn near broke the pattern. So in this book there was a moment where Cadswain and Rand are in danger, and Rand uses Balefire to ward off a dark creature, and it works. But then Cadswain just walks right up to Rand and just slaps the fuck out of him, and she tells him straight up, "Never use Balefire again. Too dangerous."
Ooh.
I'm just like, ooh,
ooh, and ooh. Get
all
it,
right,
girl.
sis. All right, sis. Cadswain is the before Elaine, Egwene, and Nynaeve came along, she was the most powerful channeler in the White Tower. The Aes Sedai had not seen a channeler of her strength in like centuries. She is a little over 300 years, which is a rarity for the Aes Sedai because they don't live. The Aes Sedai don't live that much long past the age of 300. So she's currently the oldest Aes Sedai, and if you notice in these pictures, she has a golden headdress on her bud, especially the one where she's walking into that room with Rand and all the shaman.
Yeah.
So you see that headdress with the little stars and crescent moons on it. That is called a paralysis net. So a paralysis net is a device that holds multiple different Ongriel and Terangriel, and they work together to basically create like a defensive net for you. So one of these little ornaments is an Ongriel, which increases her abilities, like her channeling abilities, to like much greater heights. So it almost doubles her power. One of them, I think it's that little star right there. It protects her from being directly channeled at. So if another channeler tries to throw one of their weaves at her to hurt her, the weave will just vanish before it even touches her. So it creates like a shield that protects her from other channelers. And there's another one that looks like a little sparrow, and the beak of the sparrow will turn, like the little charm, if she holds it up, it'll turn and point in the direction of somebody that's actively channeling. So she actually used that to help her track down male channelers and determine if there are anybody channeling nearby that she can't sense. Right. And there's a few others that she has. One of them is a well, which allows her to store like a small portion of the power. So that way, in case if she's ever shielded or if she's in like a steading or anywhere where the power is being blocked, she could just draw from the well to defend herself if she needs to. But overall, she's a badass. In book 9, when Ran, like, she finally, like, it takes her 2 books to finally agree to be part of Rand's advisor. Because when she first meets Rand, he kind of leaves a bad impression with her, and she's like, nah.
No.
Like, nah. Until you learn some respect, I'm not going to help you.
Oh. Damn.
And finally, he manages to convince her to help him. And she's like, all right, well, what are we doing? Now that you've done, like, your other foolishness here, what are we doing now? He says, and he told her, I'm going to cleanse the taint on the source.
Ooh.
And she's all like, ooh, and how are you going to do that? Come again? And he tells her, I'm not going to talk about this in the book, so don't bother putting this in this episode, but because this is from book 9.
Yeah.
Rand pulls out the 2 access keys for the Choden Call, and he tells her, I'm going to use these. Because the Choden Call is not really well known. Like, they know of the existence of these massive statues, and the fact that they're Sa'angreal, but no one really knows how to use them because you can't use them without the access key. So he pulls out the male and female access keys, and he tells her, he's going to link with Nynaeve, and the 2 of them are going to use the Choden Call to cleanse the source. So he opens a gateway, and they travel to this mountain ridge just outside of Shadar Logoth.
Ooh.
That dead city where that entity Mashadar lives. So he takes them to this ridge just outside of the city, and he and Nynaeve link together, and Nynaeve gives control of the link over to Rand, and they're both pulling from the access keys. And the thing is that the amount of power that they're drawing from the source using those access keys is so much that channelers from hundreds of miles away can sense what they're doing.
Wow.
And this basically creates a beacon for the Forsaken, because the Forsaken became aware that Rand had gotten a hold of the Choden Call's access keys, so they were waiting for him to use them. So once they sensed him using them, all but 2 of the Forsaken come running. Ishamel was reincarnated. He actually pops up in this book. Ishamel's reincarnation is called Moradin now, which means death. And Semiraj, the other female Forsaken that's as strong as Lanfear.
Yeah.
Real quick comment about those 2. Lanfear is a narcissistic sociopath. Semiraj is a sadistic psychopath.
That's hot. So
Semiraj is a bloodthirsty bitch, but she doesn't come running when the Choden Call is activated. So Mogedion, Demandred, he's the last male channeler that hasn't been killed yet and reincarnated. Grendel, Sidane. So Lanfear gets reincarnated as a woman named Sidane. Is it Sidane or Sindane? It's Lanfear reincarnated. See, those 2, Grendel, Demandred, Mogedion, Sidane. Ostengar. Ostengar is the reincarnation of Agonor, the guy that got the Forsaken that was killed in book 1. And Arangar, the Forsaken is the reincarnation. Well, she is the reincarnation of Bothamel. And I think that's all of them. Because Robin and Samael were never reincarnated. Well, I don't think Well, Samael hasn't been reincarnated yet. Masana doesn't show up because she is currently in the White Tower. And she can't really leave because if she just dips, then the Aes Sedai will notice. Damn, I think that's everybody. Because, okay, so no one. Masana, Cimaraj, Morden. Who am I missing? Robin never gets reincarnated. Oh, that's right. Bilal has never been reincarnated. You know what? That's not important. So anyway, half of the remaining Forsaken come running, and Cadsuane, this is where I thought she was such a badass bitch, because she immediately took charge. So while Rand and Nynaeve were focusing on cleansing the corruption from Sidon, she organizes their group of channelers that they had with them. So there was there were 3 shaman with them, and about half a dozen other Aes Sedai that were either sworn to Rand or they followed Cadsuane's lead. Rand loans Kalandor to one of the Ashaman, and Cadsuane had revealed to Rand that Kalandor is actually unstable because it was made at the end of the Age of Legends, and they had made it in such a rush that they didn't really take precautions, they didn't really test it and make sure that it was safe to use. So it's currently unstable, and she warns him that if he continues to use it as is, it may end up backfiring. And so she tells him that the way that they can use Kalandor's power properly is if he links himself to 2 Aes Sedai, with one of the Aes Sedai leading the link, and from there, that link will allow them to safely control the flow of Kalandor's power. So that's what they do. She has 2 of her Aes Sedai link with one of the Ashaman who uses Kalandor. She herself creates a link with a couple other of her Aes Sedai, and the remaining Aes Sedai link with the other 2 shaman, and she has them set out all around the camp. And there's another channeler that's traveling with their group, a woman named Olivia. And Olivia was a former Damane from the Shan Shan. Rand actually will free Olivia in this book. Well, actually, no, not in this book, the next book. But Olivia is as powerful as Lanfear and Semiraj. So she's the strongest channeler that they have at their disposal. So when all of these channelers, when all the Forsaken come running, Cadsuane is using her Terangrial, the little sparrow Terangrial, and whenever the Forsaken starts channeling nearby, it turns and points in their direction. And Cadsuane directs all the other channelers. There's one over there, there's one over there, there's one over there. And their groups begin assaulting the Forsaken, and they actually manage to hold back the Forsaken. Right? Sindane shows up, and she ends up getting confronted by Olivia, and she tries to attack Olivia, but Olivia was given some Terangrial that protect her from channelers, so none of Sindane's attacks affect her. But then Sindane starts counterattacking, and Olivia starts counterattacking Sindane's. I can't talk right now. So after Sindane attacks Olivia, having been protected by her Terangrial, starts attacking her back, and Sindane is shocked because she realizes that Olivia was as strong as she was in her previous life. But the thing is, Sindane, when she was reincarnated, she ended up losing a lot of her power. So she's a lot weaker than she was in her past life, but she's still a very strong channeler. But so now she has to fight a channeler that's even stronger than her, and let's see, Demandred, when he shows up, he's immediately attacked by the channelers, and he couldn't get any closer. Grendel couldn't get close either. And thing is that Arangar, she snuck up on one of the linked groups, and the shaman that was with that linked group is shocked to see that Arangar is channeling Sidon, not Sidar as a woman should be, right?
Mhm.
But thing is, they managed to fight Arangar off, but unfortunately, the young shaman that was with them gets killed. But as they're fighting, Ran and Nynaeve, the way that they cleansed the taint from Sidon was Ran believes that the way that they can remove the taint from Sidon is by using Sidar to create a funnel,
Mhm.
like a tunnel leading from Sidon. Like one end opens up into Sidon, and the other end opens up into Shadar Logoth. Because Rand theorized that the darkness and evil,
Mhm.
despite it being a polar opposite of the darkness and evil that's corrupting Sidon, they are still coming from the same place, so they'll be drawn to each other. So, using Sidar, he creates this tunnel, which when he weaves Sidar into the tunnel, he realizes that Sidar is taking the shape of like something like a flower,
Mhm.
and he starts funneling Sidon through the tunnel, and with it, the taint begins flowing into it too. And at first, it's like a trickle, but then as more of the darkness on Sidon begins to flow through it, it's more and more of it is being drawn out of Sidon and into Shadar Logoth. So while the fighting's going on over here, this massive black orb begins to form over the dead city.
Oh Jesus!
Right? Yeah, we're talking like that scene from Akira at the end when Akira destroys the whole city, and it's just this big old black orb that begins to form. Moghedien sees the black orb, and she does what she usually does, and she just sat back and hide because she didn't want to get involved directly with the fighting. And she can see it's this big ass black orb, like no features to it whatsoever, but inside it she could see flickers of something like dark pitch black flames. So like something that's even darker than the black sphere is like flickering, and she thinks that must be Mashadar fighting back against this darkness that suddenly appeared over its domain. And then just when it reached critical mass, the orb vanishes.
Mhm.
And you know how like when a nuke it goes off, it
Yeah.
creates a vacuum effect because like all this air got displaced outward, and
Yeah,
then once it's
pulls
done,
it
it
back
just
in.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's what happens, and all that's left of Shadar Logoth is a crater,
Dang.
3 miles in diameter.
Damn.
And one of the Ashaman that was with their team begins. What's his name? What is his name? Hold on, let me look up his name because this is important. This shaman is he's like an older guy. He's kind of like Nynaeve. He's very skilled in healing, and Nynaeve, who figured out how to create healing weaves using all 5 threads. This guy does the same thing, but Sidon. And he begins administering first aid to the rest of the group. And as he's channeling, he kept saying to himself, "It's clean. It's clean." So they were successful. They finally cleansed the source, and I'm like, ah. That's when that book ended. But anyway, we're supposed to be talking about book 7. I just wanted to gush because that scene was so great. I was like, oh, yes. I've been waiting 9 books for this.
Oh shit. We're on book 10.
Uh-huh.
You have 4 more books to go.
Yep. So, and they're hinting at it like Tamar Gaiden is getting closer. They're hinting at it. Things are going to start escalating from here.
Oh God, that means I gotta start getting notes ready for the books I've read so far.
You still got time.
I got time. But I need to, because I have like 3 or 4 books I want to talk about before. Spoiler alert for all you listening, before I talk about this book. It's backwards on video, but whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway,
let's go ahead and get started. All right.
Hi.
Hello. As a part of the intro, you should just like use that last half of what I was just gushing about.
I usually do.
Anyway. All right, cool. Well, anyway.
What's poppin'?
What's up? What's good? Anyway, Welcome to Book Watchers, where we literally sit down and watch a book. Or in Devin's case, he listens.
Do you know what? This whole stigma against audiobooks needs to stop. Okay. You see, I still have the book. I'm also reading along. Okay. My God, I'm dyslexic. What do you want me to do? Take 10 billion years to read a book? I mean, it probably will take me 10 billion years, but.
Well, anyway, hi, welcome. I'm Jacob, your host, and of course, I'm always joined with the very dyslexic, but yet still somehow reads along. Who are you again?
You forgot. Handsomely cute. Devin, hi, how are you? Let's go, what's poppin'? I'm here everywhere. I'm all over the place. So, yeah. I'm great. I know. Stop. I can hear the applause. Stop.
I think you're mistaking applause for crickets.
No, there's applause. Future Devin put an applause sound effect. See, Future Devin gets it.
Yeah, because Future Devin is biased.
Future Devin tells the truth. Anyway, in the description below, you'll find the link to the link tree for all the podcasts in the NeonicVoid family, as well as the YouTube channel, Twitters, blah, 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 gay shit, blah. God, when will this episode be released? I'm assuming probably June, because I think right now we're on book 5 getting released. Episode 5 Wheel of Time book 5.
Oh, that's already getting released?
I think book 5 is this week, because book 4 was last week. Let me double check before I say something stupid, because otherwise I was gonna be like, oh my God, happy Pride. But yeah, I think it's book
That's off for another month.
Yeah, we're on book 4. Sorry, we're on book 4. So this week, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is book 7. Next week it's Pride from the time of this posting. When it's being posted,
wow.
It's the week before Pride.
Wow.
Gays, get yourselves ready. I'm ready.
How's this?
I'm always ready for Pride.
You...
I'm always ready for Pride. Y'all hoes can't take it. Y'all hoes can't. I come into the room for D&D on Thursdays extra gay.
You come into the room and our DM is like, all right, let the hate crimes commence.
Extra gay. Just I want my charisma and my
and for
what do they call it?
For context, guys, when I say my cousin says let the hate crimes begin, he's not talking about he's going to start committing hate crimes against the gays in the games. No, if he does so much as like look at any of the gays wrong, they're going to start pointing fingers at him and saying that's a hate crime. You should give me advantage. I should get advantage.
You have not done that. You have done that.
I have not. No, I haven't.
Full fucking shit. Last year, you most certainly did.
I did not.
Yes, you.
I have not. No,
you
I fucking
goddamn
did not.
liar. Liar. You do the same thing the rest of us gays do. That's a hate crime.
And you a bitch.
You forgot to put amazing, stunning.
Nope.
I love my bestie. Oh my god. I could see where you can get that confused. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I'll forgive you.
Okay, pageantry aside.
So yeah, description below will be everything you need to know. YouTube, go follow us on YouTube if you want to see the video portion of this podcast. Look at my beautiful ginger face, wearing this cute ass Kirby shirt. I don't know what you do. I know what you want. I'm cool. Okay, cool. Let's. It's there. It's there. All the YouTube stuff is there. All right. So have fun. So today's episode, we're continuing on the journey into the Wheel of Time because this gay boy has a lot of time on his hands to read these 14 books. 14, and now you have enough. I mean, you have enough time to read 14 books, and we're halfway through. This is the halfway mark now.
I started reading the Wheel of Time in
January.
Fuck, I think it was No, it was before that. It was last year.
December?
When did I first?
I do not know.
I can't remember when I started, but I know it's taken me a long time to get to this point.
Yeah, this is the halfway mark.
Today we are doing book 7 of the Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
The Crown of Thorns.
Yeah.
And I'm already on book 10. Right at the time of this recording, I am still reading book 10.
Uh-huh.
I just started book 10, and I'm taking my time with it because, you gotta I was really grinding. Yeah, you really gotta savor the moment because I was really grinding to get to book 9 because there was something that was gonna happen in book 9, and it happened, and now I'm just like, my life is.
All's right in the
purpose
world.
in life has been fulfilled. All is right.
All is right.
And anyway, point is that I've been reading these books nonstop, and
yes.
Now I'm on book 10, and I realize after book 10 I only have 4 more books left to read.
That's true.
And I just know that that I'm gonna get hit with that.
Oh. Yeah.
That little depression that most book readers get after they finish a really awesome book series that's consumed their life for days, weeks, months, years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's like suddenly you're like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with my life. It's over. It's done. And in Robert Jordan's case, there's nothing ever gonna happen with this series ever again because that fool. He did.
May he rest in peace.
But thank God for Brandon Sanderson, who came in and finished the book series for him.
Yes.
And thank God thank God that Robert Jordan had written so much notes that Brandon Sanderson was able to seamlessly finish the series without any issues.
Yeah. Thank God.
So. Yeah. So.
Book 7.
Today, book 7. We are halfway through the series now.
Halfway mark, baby.
So a lot happens in this book, and I will say there are several things that are going to happen in this book. Several new characters are going to be introduced that'll be important later on in the series. Rand is dealing with the aftermath of his little kidnapping by the Aes Sedai from the White Tower. He's now even more mistrustful of the Aes Sedai. He currently has about almost 40 Aes Sedai held prisoner. These were the Aes Sedai that were involved in this kidnapping, and he has an extra dozen that he forced to swear fealty to him because that extra group of Aes Sedai are from the rebels from Saladar.
Of course.
So they he forced them to swear fealty to him because he ain't going to tolerate their bullshit anymore.
Period.
He has to work to undo some of the damage that the Aes Sedai have caused in Kyrene because they were manipulating several noble houses behind his back, and they made promises that, like, once we get Rand out of here, y'all can come in and take the reins.
Mhm.
Right? And so Rand has to come in and say, I'm still here, motherfuckers. You ain't doing shit. And he has to pass judgment on several of them. One bitch in particular, because the Aes Sedai promised this one lady, noble lady, her name is Colavir, and Colavir was promised by the Aes Sedai that she can take the Sun Throne of Kyrene and be the new queen. And so, like, pretty much right when Rand was kidnapped, she immediately came in and was all like, all right, I'm the queen now. And she started organizing her coronation, everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then Rand walks in and it's just like, you thought.
Bro, you
took the crown from her. Yeah, like, you thought, and took the crown from her and ordered her to be executed.
Oof.
Or rather, by his own law, she was supposed to be executed for her crimes, but the thing is, Rand has a thing against killing women.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I'm like, bro, I'm, like, so disappointed in him because he doesn't want to put women in danger and he doesn't want to, like, pass judgment on them like that. Like, he doesn't want to be responsible for their deaths. And I'm like, okay, first of all, this bitch conspired against you and was complacent in your kidnapping, and by your own laws that is ground for execution, so she was to be hanged. But Rand ended up taking pity on her and instead stripped her of her title and her lands, and was going to condemn her to a life of servitude rather than allow her to keep her nobility. And trigger warning, she ends up taking her own life because she'd rather be dead than lose all of her titles and everything.
Yeah.
So that happens, and one of the new characters being introduced in this book is another Aes Sedai who's not affiliated really with the two factions and with the Order as a whole. She kind of just does. This woman does her own thing, and her name is Cadsuane Melydrin.
Yes.
Cadsuane is a badass bitch.
She a baddie.
Like, I will say she's no different than any other Aes Sedai. Like, she's not afraid to manipulate people to get her way, and but she's very transparent. Like, she's very transparent about her intentions. She wants to make sure that Rand makes it to Tamar Gaiden alive, because he's going to die in the very end, as the prophecies have foretold. Mm-hmm. But she wants to make sure he makes it to Tamar Gaiden, so that way when he dies at the right moment. But in her mind, Cadsuane Melydrin believes she's the only person that can handle Rand, and who's the only one responsible enough to advise him. Because everyone else, all the other Aes Sedai, as she figures out when she shows up, they are not responsible. They've bungled everything and could have caused irreparable damage, right? Especially when she finds out that the White Tower had tried to kidnap him and take him to the tower. She was especially pissed off because, like, she's over here like, are you fucking stupid?
Ooh.
Like, are you all? Because the thing about Cadsuane Melydrin is that she is the oldest living Aes Sedai in the White Tower.
Mm-hmm.
And before Egwene, Elaine, and Nynaeve showed up, she was the strongest channeler in the White Tower as well. And she's also I just said she's the oldest, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just said that. So her being the oldest in the White Tower is significant because the average lifespan of a channeler is anywhere between 6 to 1,000 years. 600 years to 1,000 years. Depending on how powerful you are in the one power, it actually determines how long you'll live. Even the weakest channeler can live to an upwards of 600 years. But Aes Sedai, for some reason, don't live past the age of 300. And while I won't spoil too much for you guys because the reason for this is explained in the later books, I will say that the reason why they don't live past 300 is actually because of the 3 oaths. I'll leave it there. And I'll leave it at that.
Mhm.
Besides her, besides Rand and his team, and his group, Nynaeve and Elaine are in Ebu Dar. They arrived and joined the group of Saladar rebels in the city, and they are now searching for a storage, like a cache of ter'angreal. The reason why they're looking for these ter'angreal is because they discovered that there's one ter'angreal in that cache called a weather bowl, or the bowl of winds. And this ter'angreal has the power to control and regulate the weather. And the reason why they need this bowl is because the Dark One has used his power to lock the seasons in place. So now, even though it is already well within the winter months, it is still hot as balls. Like middle of summer, hot as balls.
Mm-hmm.
All right, which is unnatural. And because of this, it's disrupting the weather. This hot weather is now disrupting crop growths and trade and everything. Because if they're not able to grow their crops and properly store them for the winter, there won't be any more crops to grow because it's also been locked. The season has been locked in a never-ending drought as well. So there hasn't been rain for months. It's dry. It's hot. They need to do something, and they need to do something soon, or else people are gonna start starving, and it's gonna cause even more problems. Mm-hmm. So their group deals with their own problems, and we're also going to see the return of the Shan. So,
not those guys again.
Yeah, those guys again. So we're going to also see our girls deal with some of their own challenges, because at the height of book 6, when Egwene was raised to the striped stole of the Amerlin seat, she made a proclamation to raise 4 girls from the accepted rank to the Shawl. So she made 4 girls into full Aes Sedai, and Elaine and Nynaeve were raised to the Shawl. So Nynaeve is now a member of the Yellow Aja, and Elaine is of the Green Aja. Thing is, though, because of how unorthodox their promotion was, they had to deal with a lot of senior Aes Sedai who still view them as like nothing more than accepted. Like they're still students or novices in training. So they have to deal with that. And they also have to deal with a new group of channelers that actually been hiding themselves in Ebu Dar. They call themselves the Kin. And the Kin are a group of basically Aes Sedai washouts and runaways. So some girls in the middle of their training, they will either try to run away, or maybe when they're moving from novice to accepted, they don't complete the ceremony of going through the archway to ter'angreal. They decide to just say, "Nah, I'm good," and then they just dip, and they're put out of the White Tower permanently. Thing is, the Kin is used by the Aes Sedai to track down any runaways. So if a novice tries to run away, the Aes Sedai make use of the Kin to track them down. Though the Kin don't know that the Aes Sedai know their existence, but it's just something that ends up getting outed throughout this book. So let's go ahead and get started. So it's really like the perspective of this book is going to be from just really going back and forth between the group in Ebu Dar and Rand's group. And sometimes there's like other side stories concerning like the Shido Aiel and the White Tower. I'm not really going to talk about them much because it's really like they don't have any direct influence over the story. It's just more of like they're plotting. Like in fact, at the beginning of the book, Eleda still thinks that Rand is well on his way to the White Tower with her group of Aes Sedai. She has yet to find out that that group had failed and Ran escaped. So when she does find out, she actually gets really pissed off because Aleda is slowly becoming more and more unhinged. All right, she seems to think that her position as the Amerlin seat seems to mean that she's royalty. When the Amerlin seat is an authority that is even higher than the authorities of the different kingdoms like Andor, Tyr, Kyrene, and Ebu Dar. So, like, the Amerlin seat, when she says jumps the kings and queens from these lands, they jump. But the thing is that the Amerlin seat and the White Tower, they're not supposed to be royalty. They're not supposed to be caught up in those kinds of politics. They're supposed to be above it.
Yeah.
But she's going down a dark path, and she herself is not of the Black Aja, but her new keeper of the Chronicles, a woman from the White Aja named Alviarin, is actually the supreme leader of the Black Aja. So, and we'll see throughout the story that Alviarin is manipulating Aleda, and she even has dealings with Masana, who's one of the Forsaken Masana, who's currently hiding as a member of the White Tower. So she's in the White Tower. She's disguised herself as one of the sisters.
Of course she has.
Yeah. Even now, Book 10, I don't even know who she is. All I know is, I don't know who she's disguised herself as. All I know is Masana is in the tower, and she even teaches Alviarin how to travel.
Oh.
So, because she needs Alviarin to further more of her plans. We also see several other of the Forsaken in this novel. Rand actually does confront the Forsaken Samael. He's one of the last two male Forsakens that have yet to be killed by Rand. We also see Moghedien again. Moghedien, she has just been having a really, really bad time. Ooh, poor girl. I'd feel sorry for her if she wasn't such a bitch.
Oh, damn.
Because she was freed in the last book from Egwene's control. Another one of the Forsaken, a woman named Arangar, freed her, and mysteriously Arangar can channel Sidon. Didn't explain why, but in this one it actually does reveal. Later on, it does reveal who Arangar and another new chosen named Osengar reveals who they actually are. We also see the introduction of a woman named Sindane, who is another new chosen, and we also see the introduction of a mysterious figure by the name who calls himself Moradin, and Moradin in the Old Tongue means death. So when Moghedien was freed, she was immediately summoned to Shayal Gul, and when she gets there, the Dark One punishes her, and she's tortured by this strange mutated Myrddraal. He's bigger and he's more intelligent than your average Myrddraal, and this dude brutally tortures her and puts her under a special kind of compulsion, where I think it's like her spirit or her mind is placed in a little file, and this little file is being held by Moradin, and while he has it, he has full control over her. So Moradin tells her that he has a new job for her, and he needs her to go to Ebu Dar to search for a cache of Terangrial. So Dark Friends know about the Terangrial in Ebu Dar. So now she has to contend with Nynaeve and Elaine, who are currently searching for it as well. And while there, Moghedien does try to, while she's more focused on finding the Terangrial, she realizes Nynaeve is in the city, and she has a real hate boner for Nynaeve. especially because Nynaeve has humiliated her twice.
Damn.
Which is more than anyone else has ever done. So she has a particular hate boner for Nynaeve and even tries to kill her at one point. But she fails. And also, seeing as this is the halfway mark for the series, Nynaeve finally breaks through her mental block, keeping her from channeling at will.
Mm-hmm.
And from this point forward, she will actually be able to channel at will.
Ooh.
It took 7 books. And her almost dying. Before she actually breaks that fucking block.
Fair.
But what can you do? We also see Lan again. So after book 5, Lan ended up disappearing after Moraine's death. And he's appeared in the rebel camp. And Egwene actually sends him to Ebu Dar to protect Nynaeve and Elaine. And yes, Lan is in love with Nynaeve because there's been like little romantic tension between the two of them. But since Moraine since Lan was Moraine's warder, that was always something that that put a wedge between the two of them, as well as the fact that Lan didn't really want to make any promises to Nynaeve because he's always known that his life is going to be a life of death, and he didn't want to leave her. He didn't want to marry her and then like die pretty much the next day, leave her a widow at a young age.
Fair.
But so Lan will reappear, and he will join them in Ebu Dar because Egwene will after Egwene finds out that he's in the camp, she sends him to Ebu Dar to help the girls. So from here, I want to start off with we're gonna speak from Rand's perspective, at least for the first like up to a certain point, and then we'll go to the girls and then back and forth.
Yeah.
So immediately after being rescued by his shaman and the rest of his allied forces, Rand travels back to Cairhien. He now has a little under 40 Aes Sedai as his prisoners. 3 of them he had stilled when he had escaped. When he gets back to Cairhien, he immediately hands them over to the Aiel Wise Ones, and the Wise Ones immediately put them to work and keep them under lock and key. The 13 Aes Sedai that came from the rebels in Saladar, he had forced them to bend the knee and swear an oath of fealty to him. So while they still have they retain more or less their autonomy from the Wise Ones, Rand still gives them the side eye, like, yeah, I don't trust you bitches. Now Rand has a full guard of shaman, which, if you remember from the last book, he had created his own order of male channelers called the Shaman, and he left their training he left the charge of training them in the hands of Mazrim Taim, who was a false dragon that he was mentioned early on in like book 3. He was the false dragon that appeared after Logain, but then after Rand offered amnesty for all male channelers, including former false dragons, Mazrim Taim came to Cainlin and submitted to Rand, and Rand immediately put him in charge of training his new group of shaman. And now the shaman have officially proved their worth in battle, and Rand realizes that Taim did too good of a job at training them because these guys are murder machines. The Battle of Dumai's Well is remembered infamously. Has gone down in infamy because of the Ashaman. So he has a group of them protecting him, and as soon as he returns to Cairhien, he immediately realizes that several of the noble houses had moved against him, almost as if they had expected him to be gone permanently, and the way they were acting was like, oh well, Rand's not coming back, he's gone. So he goes into the royal palace, and he finds most of the noble houses gathered, and before a woman named Kulavir. And Kulavir had been made. So what happened was Kulavir had been approached by the Aes Sedai that kidnapped Rand and told her basically made her aware that they're planning on taking Rand out of the city and taking him to the White Tower.
Mm-hmm.
And they had come to an agreement with her that she would take the Sun Throne and be the new Queen of Cairhien. So they made her promises, she made her plans, and as soon as Rand was out, she made her move and she made her claim for the Sun Throne, but didn't last. She didn't get a chance to cement her claims to the throne because Rand came back. He immediately took the crown from her head, and after questioning her, he got her to spill the beans that the Aes Sedai had promised her that she would get the Sun Throne while they took him out of the city. And because she revealed her role in Rand's kidnapping,
Mm-hmm.
he condemns her.
Ooh.
Now, there are several noble houses that do side with Rand in Cairhien. One man, a guy named Dubrain, he's actually a noble from Tyr,
Mm-hmm.
tells Rand that by your laws, she must be executed for treason. But thing is I'm really disappointed in Rand for this because Rand has a very strong aversion to putting women in danger and even condemning them to death. So he really hated the idea of executing this woman. So he decides to take mercy on her, and instead of condemning her to death, he condemns her to exile and strips her of all of her titles. So she no longer holds her seat in her noble house. She's no longer a noble. All her lands, her property are going to be seized from her, and she's going to be exiled to some out of the way manor to work out the rest of her life as a farmhand. And Kulavir didn't like that. I mean, she even begs him, like, I'd rather be beheaded. Like, please just kill me. I won't be like condemned to live my life as a filthy peasant. But he makes his decision final, and she's escorted out. And Rand kind of like makes a threat to the rest of the nobles, like, I'm gonna turn my back and forget any of the faces in this room. But when I turn around and I see anyone left, there will be retribution. And basically that causes a stampede of all these nobles rushing out of the throne room, like, all right, I don't want to be here.
Mm-hmm.
He's basically saying he'll forgive any wrongdoings, like any plots against him, so long as these guys get the fuck out of his sight. So Rand has to spend the next few days cleaning up the mess that the Aes Sedai had made for him. And it's during this time that his relationship with Min begins to grow more. Those two come very close. And Rand is also Rand is dealing with his feelings of concerning Min, Elaine, and Avienda, because there are three women in his life that he now has very strong feelings for. He loves all three of them, but he feels guilty because he's gone from one girl to the next, and that's not how he was raised, but, you know, shit happens. While Rand is picking up the pieces, he begins to direct his forces from Tyr and Cairhien to begin forming up a line against the borders of Ilion. Now, he's been doing this since he started doing this in the last book, but now he's really concentrating more of his forces on Ilion because he knows without a doubt that the Forsaken Samael is currently in Ilion and is currently controlling the High Lords of Ilion. So he is beginning to cement his plans to lead an assault against Ilion to take down Samael. And now that he has as a shaman, the shaman will play a crucial role in the fight against Samael.
Mm-hmm.
But while he's making his plans, Rand is approached by another Aes Sedai, small group of Aes Sedai, being led by one Cadsuane Melydrin. So, of course, like I said earlier, Cadsuane is the oldest living Aes Sedai in the White Tower. And before Elaine, Egwene, and Nynaeve showed up, she was also the strongest channeler in the White Tower. She has a very long history of helping to capture and gentle male channelers, and among the other Aes Sedai, she's considered a legend. It was really funny because when the other Aes Sedai in Cairhien, who are working with Rand, when they see Cadsuane, they're all shocked and they're like, "I thought you were dead."
Ooh.
And at one point, so many of them had said that to her. Cadsuane says, "All right, the next one that says that they thought I was dead, I'm going to spank them."
Ew. Oh my.
When an Aes Sedai says they're going to spank you, they don't mean it in a fun way.
Ooh.
They mean it in the most humiliating and detrimental way possible. Like, she's going to break you. She is going to break you mentally if you insult her like that again. So, thing is that Cadsuane had approached Rand with the intention of joining him, and she wants to insert herself as his advisor. But Rand, being very on edge from the incident with the White Tower's Aes Sedai, he doesn't trust her and pretty much banishes her from his throne room. But Min later tells him that when she saw Cadsuane, she immediately realized she saw an image appear around Cadsuane, and she knew that Cadsuane would actually prove to be trustworthy and will actually help Rand. And she tells Rand that Cadsuane is going to teach you something important, but I don't know what it is.
Ooh.
So Rand begins to come around to the idea of Cadsuane, but he's still not entirely sure if he can trust her, and also he's not even sure what exactly is she going to teach him. To laugh and cry.
Damn.
Cadsuane herself says that several times in this book and the next few books. She doesn't say this to Rand, but she says this while she's talking with other of her allies. Especially about her plans for help with Rand, because in Cadsuane's mind, she thinks she's the only one who can handle Rand, who can be trusted to handle Rand, and is the only one who has the necessary qualifications to help him reach Tamargaiden alive. And she even mentions that she's going to teach him how to laugh and cry again.
Aww.
Because this is an allegory to the fact that pretty much since Rand took up the role of fully took up the role of being the Dragon Reborn, he believes that he has to be harder. He himself needs to be harder and firmer as a person. And, you know what happens when you basically shut yourself out from, all of those basic emotions and, try and make yourself into, a more stoic person. It doesn't work out.
No.
All right.
Sure don't.
Often causes you to be reckless.
That's correct.
So she has yet to teach him this, even now in book 10. But for now, he doesn't have much to do with Cadsuane. She actually, after she leaves him, she gathers the Aes Sedai that have sworn their oaths to him, and the ones that are not under the complete lock and key by the Wise Ones, and she interrogates them all and asks them, okay, what the fuck have you guys been doing?
Ooh.
I show up here and he's completely mistrustful, has no respect for Aes Sedai, and all but banishes me from the city. What exactly have you been doing? And they tell her, they tell the whole story, and by the end of it, Cadsuane's like, I swear to God, and they let you idiots be Aes Sedai. I gotta say, I love Cadsuane. She's my favorite.
She's your favorite?
All right, she's my favorite. Yeah, she's definitely my favorite. She has no fucks given, and she's not afraid to take the bull by the horns. So, as Rand is cleaning up the mess, he decides that he wants to also try to quell a rebellion that has also formed against him in Kyrene. So this rebellion had been around for a while, pretty much since he took Kyrene. It's being led by one of the high seats of House of Demodred and another house and another rebel leader from Tyr. So he decides to approach these rebels in secret, and he speaks with them. He meets a woman. He meets the high seat of the House Demodred, who's actually either the distant cousin or the niece of Moraine. Her name is Caroline Demodred.
Mm-hmm.
And Ren is shocked to see how remarkably similar she is to Moraine. I mean, they're related, so it's no surprise there.
Yeah.
She actually immediately recognizes Ran, but her allies don't recognize him right away. And Caroline, while she herself believes that Ran has no right to the Sun Throne and no right to be holding Kyrene, she realizes that she's smart enough to realize that there's no point in pissing him off or exposing him to the rest of the rebels, because one of the rebel leaders is a guy who has a real hate boner for Rand, and she knows it could get ugly if this guy figures out who he really is.
Mm-hmm.
So Rand, hold on, let me see. What was his name? You know what? It's not important. I'm not about to spend 10 minutes looking for his damn name. So anyway, while he's among the rebels, he had gone to their camp in the hills outside of Kyrene. He's talking among them, trying to get to know them better, try to see maybe he could find some way, like some form of common ground with them, so that way he could just bring them under control through peaceful negotiation rather than having to kill them all.
Yeah.
While he's there, he realizes that the dark friend Padden Fane is there, and Padden Fane has taken himself to being the advisor to. Okay, you know what? Fuck it. That dude's name is important.
Dude's name is important.
God damn it. Because that's the thing, though. He's not that important because he only shows up like twice.
Yeah.
Like, first time when he's introduced, second time when he's dead. 2 books later.
Spoiler alert.
Okay, so this guy's name is Torum Riatin. So for some reason, Torum has a real hate boner for Rand. And when Rand meets the guy notices that Rand has his sword with him, and notices that it has the heron mark blade, the heron marks on it, and he actually challenges Rand to a friendly duel, because the guy is also a blade master, and the two of them have their friendly duel, but it's interrupted when Padden Fane himself begins using his new dark powers, because Padden Fane now has possession of the knife from Shadar Logoth. You guys remember this knife was taken from Shadar Logoth by Matt Cawthon, and it was later stolen by Padden Fane. So Padden Fane has now been corrupted by the evil of Shadar Logoth. And because of this, he's also beginning to display his own strange abilities. So, like, he's able to cause random incidents, like bubbles of evil. In this case, he summons a smaller version of Mashadar, the mist-like entity from Shadar Logoth. And while Rand and Torum are having their little duel, the entire rebel camp becomes enveloped in this mist, and the mist begins taking on the shape of these entities, and they start killing everybody. While they were in the camp, I should also mention, Rand notices that there's 2 groups of Aes Sedai there. One group is being led by Cadsuane, and the other is other Aes Sedai from the White Tower, Red Sisters from the White Tower, from their White Tower. Doesn't really say what happened to those sisters. Either they got out of the fighting, or whether they got out of the fighting or not, or if they got killed by Mashadar. But in the confusion, Cat Swain comes to Rand with a group of Aes Sedai she's with, and they help Rand and Min get out of there. They also take Caroline Damadrid with them. Hold on, is that her name? Is it Caroline or Carleen or something? Caroline Damadrid. Yep, that's her. There we go. Yeah, that's her name. So Caroline Damadrid, with Cat Swain's help, they escort Rand, Min, Caroline Damadrid, and a few other nobles out of the mist. The mist attacks them a couple times, and Rand at one point uses balefire to kill one of the mist entities. But when he does this, Cat Swain marches right up to him and bitch slaps him.
Ooh.
And she tells him very sternly, "Don't ever use balefire again." And the reason for that is because in the White Tower, balefire is one of the few weaves that is considered forbidden, because balefire is very dangerous, and as a result of its overuse in the War of Power, balefire nearly broke the pattern, which is bad.
Yeah.
No bueno. That's no bueno.
No bueno.
But Rand actually takes this in stride, because a few times up to this point he had several conversations with Cat Swain, and Cat Swain had basically read him to filth at one point and asked him, "Are you hearing voices yet?" And this kind of struck a chord with Rand, because at this point Rand has been hearing the voice of Lews Therin, his previous life. So, and he's been having flashes of that man's memories. But up until this point, he thought this was a result of the madness overtaking him. But he comes to realize that he's actually hearing the voice of his previous life, Lews Therin Telamon. Granted, Lews Therin is batshit crazy, but he knows now that he's actually remembering his past life. All right, and it's not just a result of the madness.
Yeah.
But still, they manage to escape from the mist. But just before they get out of it, Padan Thane attacks Rand, and actually manages to wound him using the dagger from Shadar Logoth. Thing is that injuries inflicted with the blade are fatal, because the darkness kills you. It causes like some kind of its darkness causes you to basically melt. So when Rand got injured, where Padan Thane slashed him was actually he slashed him over his other wounds, because Rand has a wound in his side that he got from Ishamel when he fought him in Falm.
Yeah,
and it's a wound that never heals because it was inflicted using the Dark One's power. So it won't ever fully heal. The Aes Sedai have used their healing abilities on it, and they've got it to where it won't bleed, but it won't fully heal. And oftentimes when he's exerting himself, it'll break open and start bleeding again. But now there's another there's another gash over it created by the Shadar Logoth dagger, and Rand nearly dies. Cat Swain and the other Aes Sedai managed to take him back to Cairhien in time, and it's there that the Cat Swain gets one of the sisters from her group to heal him. This yellow sister, she's very talented in healing, but she states that she can't heal this new wound fully because it's of a different evil entirely from the wound that he already has, but it's the same. But it comes from the same place, so she couldn't fully heal it. And now everyone's standing around Rand like he's about to die. That is until his shaman arrive, because when they find out that Rand was injured, his shaman come up to save the day. Again, real quick. I need to look up the name of this one shaman because he's actually very important. I know his name, but I forgot it. Dahmer Flynn is a is actually an older shaman. He's actually when he joined the shaman, he was actually well into his middle years. And Dahmer Flynn, what's so special about him is that he's actually very talented with healing. In fact, he's unsurpassed by any other male channeler. And the only other people that have been able to match his healing abilities were Nynaeve, because just like Nynaeve, he knows how to use all 5 threads to heal. Because usually most Aes Sedai only know how to use weaving of water, air, and spirit, which creates a healing weave that's basically like in D&D terms, it's like greater restoration. It's just a cure-all. It'll heal everything. But with his kind of healing, he knows how to focus focus the power to just heal specific parts of the body instead of healing the entire thing as a whole, which takes up a lot of power from both the healer and the person being healed. So when the shaman show up, when the shaman find out that Ren was injured and has been brought back to the palace, Dahmer Flynn shows up and he immediately goes to Rand's side and inspects the wound. And while he's inspecting it, he makes he comes to the same conclusion as Sumitsu. Let's see. Sorry, I really gotta... Yep, it was her. So, Catswain's own healer, Sumitsu, had managed to stabilize Rand, but she wasn't able to do anything further. And she's a very talented healer, but she only knows the standard healing that the Aes Sedai know. Then Dahmer Flynn shows up, and he inspects it and sees the same thing as she does, but he begins using his own healing, and the way he starts weaving his his weaving, he actually starts moving his hands and fingers together like he's actually like weaving the threads of power with his bare hands. And when he finishes the healing, Sumitsu inspects it, and she's shocked to see that both the wound from Padan Fane and the wound from that he got from Balsamon had not only gotten smaller, but she realized that they were whatever evil that's infected both wounds, they've been sealed. And Dahmer Flynn says that I couldn't do much more. What I was able to do was contain the evil, keeping it from being much of a threat to Rand, so it won't bother Rand as much as it usually does.
Yeah.
And at that moment, Sumitsu basically she marches up to Dahmer Flynn and she's like, I want you to try to show me how you did that. I don't care what I have. I don't care that you're a man and I'm a woman. I want you to tell me how exactly you did that. All right, and I'll give you anything. All right, money, power, a child. I'll do anything.
Oh my god.
This woman basically threw herself at him, and I was like, damn, okay, chill.
I mean, skills are useful.
Yeah, but in the case of channelers, men can't really teach women anything because by the very nature of Sidon and Sidar, the way they heal is very different. So I mean, he could explain to her how he does it, but she would have to figure out how to replicate it on her own.
Yeah, on her side of things. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're gonna take a break from Rand. He's fine. He's fine. Don't worry about it. And we're gonna go ahead and take a step over to Ebudar, to our girls.
Girls are girlies.
Yeah. So the thing is, the beginning of the search for the Terangriel isn't exactly going the way the girls want it. They arrived in Ebudar, and they joined the Aes Sedai that are currently in Ebudar, trying to make a deal. The rebel Aes Sedai from Saladar are trying to convince the Queen of Ebudar to support their cause, right? Establish good relations with them, so that way, if the rebels do in fact win this confrontation and seize control of White Tower, things would be favorable for the Queen of Ebudar. But there's also a delegation from the White Tower there, and they're trying to pretty much do the same thing, right? But rather they're trying to maintain their already the established relations between them and the White Tower. So the thing is, though, when they arrive, they of course tell the other rebels Egwene's decision. Like they need to find the Terangrial that are hidden somewhere in the city, and also that Nynaeve and Elaine are full-fledged sisters now. They haven't yet taken the tests, or have been given their actual shawls, but by Egwene's command, they are full sisters. But the thing is that their fellow rebel sisters don't exactly agree with that, like don't exactly fully acknowledge that, and still try to treat both Elaine and Nynaeve as nothing more than novices or accepted, and they order them about, they put curfews on them, and basically make things life hard for them. Like those two were sent to Ebudar to find the Terangrial, but the sisters are already there are like, no, we'll handle this. You stay in the tower and you stay out of our way. And the thing is, though, the girls don't take kindly to that, so they instead said, all right, fine, we're just going to do things on our own. So they routinely sneak out of the palace. Matt and a small group of his Band of the Red Hand came with them to Ebudar to keep him safe. But the thing is that the girls don't really want him to interfere with their work. So, and also they don't want the other Aes Sedai to try to stop them. So, using what they've learned from Ogedion, they began to create. Every time they would sneak out of the palace, they would just disguise themselves using the power and create like an illusion of another person over themselves, right? And then they'd invert the weave so none of the other channelers would sense what they're doing.
Yeah.
So they would sneak out and they would go to this other district of Ebudar. So like there's 2 different districts in Ebudar. So let's see, there is the main city itself where the royal palace is, and then there's the Rahad, which is like so the way Ebudar is set up, it's set up in like a kind of like a bay where this large river flows into the ocean. And so like the main part of the city is on one side of the bay and the Rahad is on the other side of it, and the only way you can get to the Rahad is through a ferry. And they know for a fact that the Terangrial they're looking for is somewhere in the Rahad. So the girls would go out daily under disguise and explore the city and explore the Rahad, but they're not making much headway. Because the thing is, Ebudar is very strange. They have very strange customs. So like it's very routine for locals to challenge each other to duels to the death. In fact, like Ebudara men will routinely challenge each other because for like the smallest things, like if you survive a duel, all right, like depending on how many duels a man has survived, that makes them more favorable in terms of like, oh, job placement or impressing a woman to marry him. Like women will straight up be like, I'm not going to marry a man with less than 10 duels under his banner.
Ooh.
So it's very much like that. And women, instead of having like engagement rings or wedding rings, they have wedding knives that they wear on a chain around their neck, and like on the hilt of their little their marriage knife will have like pearls and rubies on it, and depending on like the color or the shape of the gems, it determines like, okay, how many kids they have, how many of them have died in a duel, and how many of them have survived. So they're very contentious lot. And even just doing something as small as like asking questions about the area, like where can we find like this place or this, you may end up getting challenged to a duel because like people don't like it when you ask these kind of questions. But eventually, the girls actually come across these strange women throughout the city they're called wise women, and they realize that these women can channel, but they're very weak in the power, so not something that the White Tower would take notice of them. So while they're exploring the city, one of these women approaches Elaine And the thing is that this woman that approaches Elaine believes that Elaine is actually a runaway from the tower. And even though Elaine tells her, no, I am a full sister of the White Tower, the woman absolutely refuses to believe her. And begins telling her that, like, tells her that, listen, I don't care. Like, you could tell yourself all you want. You're not a full sister. You better come with me. We have, there's a group of women that help runaways like you find hiding and shelter. So you better come with me, or else I'm going to report you to the real sisters, and they'll just drag your ass back to the tower. And Elaine is frustrated, but Nynaeve tells her, wait, hold up. This might actually work in our favor. So they follow the woman, and that woman takes them to a house filled with these wise women, and these wise women are like the current leaders, the elders of a group of wise women. They call themselves the Kin. And the Kin question the girls, but the thing is that, like, the girls tell them, listen, we are actually full sisters of the Aes Sedai, and we're here looking for a ter'angreal somewhere in the Rayhad, and we could use your help. But just like the other woman, the elders refuse to believe that Nynaeve and Elaine are full sisters, and it gets to the point where they get so frustrated with them that the elders say, all right, that's it, we're turning you into the White Tower. So they put the girls out, and they say, you better get out of, if you want to avoid getting shipped off to the White Tower, you best get out of town quickly, because we're going to report you to the Aes Sedai in the palace, and we're also going to put the word out for every inn in the city, saying that there's 2 girls posing as Aes Sedai. So you might as well get out of here quick. And at this point, like, Nynaeve herself is frustrated because she thought like she had something, like she had a good lead, but only got the door slammed in her face. And Elaine is pissed. She's understandably too, because she, like, by the authority of the Amyrlin seat, she is now a sister, a full-fledged sister. She is not an accepted. She is not a novice, and she's had enough. At this point, she's had enough of everyone assuming she's still a novice, right? So when she and Nynaeve go back to the palace, by that point, the other rebel sisters got word from the Kin that they are about the girls. And the thing is, of course, the sisters know that Elaine and Nynaeve are full sisters, but they still act like they're novices, treat them like they're novices, and they start scolding the 2 girls, saying, like, you're not leaving the palace anymore. All right, we'll handle the search for the ter'angreal. And this is where Elaine herself gets so pissed off that she embraces the source, and she basically, like, puts her foot down in front of them. And the girl and the other sisters try to scold her, like, who told you to embrace the power? Release it now. Like, you know, wagging their finger at her. But she turns on them and she says, no. And she like basically, she just points at them and is just like, sit. By the authority of Egwene Almira, the Amyrlin seat, the woman that you chose to lead you in our rebel forces, I have been made a full sister of the Aes Sedai. I'm not an accepted anymore. I am a member of the Green Aja, and I am sick and tired of you treating me like I'm not. Because if you're not acknowledging me as one of your sisters, you're basically going against the very decision of the Amyrlin herself. Do you not accept the Amyrlin and respect her decisions? And the other sisters are like looking at each other like, oh shit, she's right.
Yeah. She's speaking
and because of that, the other sisters basically roll on their belt, like expose their bellies to her, and you're like, all right, we'll behave. And the thing is like, part of the Aes Sedai's hierarchy, they often defer to the judgment of the strongest channeler in the room.
Mm-hmm.
So while it's not an official power, structure of power, it is something that it's part of their culture. And since Elaine is the strongest channeler in the White Tower next to Egwene and Nynaeve, every single one of those Aes Sedai had no choice. Like, they all immediately submitted to her, and she tells them, "All right, here's what we're gonna do," and she leads them back to the house where the kin was, and with all the sisters following her, they confront the elders of the kin. Because at this point, the Aes Sedai reveal that the White Tower has been completely aware of the kin this entire time. Because the kin, they keep themselves hidden from the White Tower because they help runaways and washouts from the White Tower.
Yeah.
Most especially the runaways, because some girls, they run away from the tower, and the White Tower, they have a reputation of always finding you. So the kin try to help these girls to protect them and keep them from being taken back to the White Tower, because if they don't want to go back, then by all means they shouldn't have to be forced to go back. But the White Tower does not allow novices to just run away, because they're channelers that are still untrained and not responsible enough to use the power.
Yeah.
So if they allowed them to run free, then at that point, whatever damage they cause, it's at the White Tower is going to be held responsible for it.
Yeah.
But the thing is, what the kin didn't know was that the White Tower was aware of their existence the entire time.
Ooh.
And they would actually use the kin to track where runaways are being taken. So, because they know that there's agents of the kin hiding in Tar Valon. So when a girl tries to run away, a novice tries to run away, they're immediately taken in by the kin and shipped off to Abu Dar.
Ooh.
So, the Aes Sedai are like, all right, we know where they're going, so they'll send a sister there, or they'll let whoever is already in the tower, in Abu Dar, know that, hey, there's a novice coming your way. Come get her. You better get her. And there'd be a sister waiting for the novice, and the sister's like, all right, you're back to the tower with you. So the kin didn't know that the Aes Sedai already knew of their existence, but Elaine is like, all right, well, we need this bowl of winds. They know where it is. We know for a fact they know where it is, and they're going to take us to it. So they go back, and with all of the Aes Sedai backing her up, they convince the kin that, yes, Elaine is a sister of the Aes Sedai. In fact, she's the one in charge of this whole operation.
Yeah.
And the kin are all like, they're practically shitting themselves, because now they're surrounded by full-fledged sisters.
Ooh.
And they agree to help them, and they reveal that, yes, we do know where this cache of Parangrial is hidden. We'll take you to it. And yes, the bowl you're describing it's definitely there. And thing is that Elaine, while she's among the kin, she notices something odd about them. A lot of the kin, they don't have the same ageless face as the Aes Sedai do. All Aes Sedai, when they reach a certain age, they take on what is called an agelessness. So even though their hair turns all white with age, their face remains unlined and unchanged. But she's looking at these women, and many of them look like they're in their middle years, like they're middle-aged. They have crow's feet, wrinkles, all that. So she decides to ask the leader of the elders, how old are you? And the lady says, I'm 400 years old. And the other Aes Sedai are shocked by this, because Aes Sedai don't live past the age of 300.
Yeah.
Hell, one of the sisters was so shocked she fainted. So I thought that was I'm 400 years old.
Bitch.
The fuck? You're older than the oldest Aes Sedai in the tower. The fuck?
Buffoonery. The buffoonery of it all.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're going to go back to Rand in a bit, but I just want to leave off on this. So while Elaine was handling the kin, she sends Nynaeve to make contact with the Ethan Mir, because all over the place, all along coastlines, river cities, everything, there's been the Ethan Mir have been appearing, because they have been looking for Rand, because they believe Rand is their own prophesized messiah called the Koramor. And seeing that there's one there, they realize they could use the Athanmir's help, because Elaine knows from personal experience that the Athanmir are expert weather workers.
Mm-hmm.
So they know how. So they have very advanced weaves that allow them to control the weather. And since they're about to get their hands on ter'angreal that can control the weather, what better way to use it than with the help of weather workers themselves? So
True.
she sends Nynaeve to the Athanmir to ask for their help, because when they get the bowl and when they're going to use it, they're going to use a full circle of sisters linked together.
Mm.
So about 13 channelers linked together. They're all going to work. They're going to pull their power into the bowl to break the Dark One's hold over the seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that the Athanmir are notorious bargainers, right? They're like, all right, we'll help you, but you got to make it worth our while. And Nynaeve and Elaine, being very inexperienced with negotiating and bargaining, they end up getting backed into a bargain that's very unfavorable for the Aes Sedai.
Yeah.
So, in exchange for their help, the Aes Sedai have to turn over the Bowl of Winds after they fix the weather. And also, the Aes Sedai must agree to share their secrets with the Athanmir. So, the Aes Sedai will have to choose like 20 of their sisters to send to the Athanmirian Islands to train the Windfinders, like as if they were full sisters. So like train them in everything concerning the power, from linking to warder bonds, pretty much anything that a Windfinder wants to know, that the Aes Sedai has to teach them. And also, as part of the bargain, the Athanmir are free to come and go from the White Tower as they please, learn whatever they want from them, and then they can book it. Right?
Yeah.
They don't have to join the White Tower as novices. They don't have to join the White Tower like in any capacity. They can remain independent, which on one hand I can see why they would want that, because the Windfinders have always been afraid of being discovered by the Aes Sedai. Because then if they were, then the Aes Sedai may try to, like, you know, not kill them, but
Oh, well.
No. They wouldn't do that. The White Tower, they would try to recruit them, bring them under the White Tower's control. Because hell, there's currently a Windfinder in the Athanmir who's stronger than Nynaeve. So Nynaeve, I was doing research. She's like, score like on a score from 1 to 10.
Yeah.
1 being the strongest you can be with the power as a woman. Nynaeve is a 3rd level.
Damn.
Moghedien is 4. And this Windfinder is a 2. With Lanfear, Olivia, and Semiraj being number 1. So it's crazy. But the thing is that they're desperate. Nynaeve and Elaine have no choice but to agree to their bargain. And so the Athanmir agree to loan them a small group of their Windfinders to link with them so they can use the bolt, so they could use the weather bolt. We're going to go ahead and pause right here, and we're going to take a step back over to Rand real quick. Because it's not done. Their story isn't done in this book yet, but we're going to come back to them.
Mm-hmm.
So back to Rand. So Rand had been unconscious for several days. In that time, he recovers and he finally wakes up, and he finds himself surrounded by Cadsuane, Min, and a few other advisors. Min is arguing with Cadsuane because Cadsuane wants to try to wake him up, try to like force him to wake up. And Min's like, no, you can't do that. Like, he needs to heal. But he wakes up anyway, and he's like, oh, this is awkward. Because thing is that when they put him in bed and they were treating him, they stripped him of all his clothes, so he's basically just naked under the sheets. And he's like, would someone mind getting me my clothes, please? I'm surrounded by a bunch of women.
Giggity.
And Cadsuane, like Min and Cadsuane kind of scold him, like, we're not your servants. And he's like, all right then. tucks off his sheets, gets up, buck ass naked in front of all these women. Like, Min is like, she's enjoying the show, but Cat Swain's like, I hardly know you, but I've already seen your hairless ass more times than I care to see it.
Oh my god.
So he gets dressed and he asks them, so what's been going on? What's good? What's poppin'? They tell him, well, like his advisors tell him, well, your forces are now completely in place. He had, before Ren had gone to see the rebels, he had actually sent a small team of a shaman to join his forces and to begin assaulting the Ilian outposts along the border of Tyr and Ilian. So they start doing that, and they actually make really great progress. But a shaman reports to him that they encountered another male channeler, this one way more powerful than they were. And Rand's like, "Yep, that's Samael." So it looks like he's joined the fight. And they tell him like he's still currently holding our forces back. So Rand's like, "All right, we don't have any time to waste." So he gathers the shaman with him, and he travels with them to Camelin, and there he meets Davram Bashir, the Saldean general, and his forces, who decided to join Rand in Book 6. Bashir had been recruiting and growing more of Rand's troops in Camelin, and Rand had already told him to be ready to go on the assault. And when Rand shows up, his soldiers are all ready. His cavalry, Bashir's cavalry and horsemen are ready, and Rand's like, "All right, let's go." He opens a portal, and Bashir leads his forces through the gateway, and they immediately come out into the city of Ilion itself.
Ooh.
And so Bashir's forces immediately assault the city. Rand goes through, and with his small group of shaman, he tells them to set themselves up in different places around the city, and using weaves he showed them to use, they all set themselves up and lay a trap. Because what Rand was doing, he was deliberately drawing Samael away from the city and distracting him with the main bulk of his forces along the border of Tyr, in order for Rand to slip in unnoticed and set up a trap for Samael. So while him and and Rand knew that once he arrives in the city, whatever traps and whatever safeguards Samael put in place around the city, they would probably go off, and they would definitely alert Samael to his presence, which happens. And Samael shows up and immediately assaults him and his shaman, and they all fight back against him. The thing about Samael, though, he's very crafty. He knows how to get himself out of a sticky situation. So he actually manages to lure Rand into a trap of his own. And the way he does that is that he lures Rand through a gateway into Shadar Logoth. So Samael leads him into Shadar Logoth, and there the two of them begin fighting, but it's more of like a game of cat and mouse. Samael's not confronting Rand directly. He's more just like hiding and throwing fireballs. And at one point, he uses a weave fire and earth to create these like they kind of look like bolts of lightning, but they're bright red. And whenever the tendrils touch you, they burn you, and they'll cut through it. They pretty much cut through anything. And Rand, being a very powerful channeler himself, he's able to instantly reverse engineer the weave, like learns how to use the weave and starts using it himself. So it's funny, every time Rand fights one of the male Forsaken, he learns something new from them. Like, he learned how to create gateways from Asmodean, his fight with Asmodean. He learned how to open portals into the dream world from Ashamel. And he didn't really learn much from Raven. I think with Raven, he figured out how to actually travel, because the gateway part from Asmodean, he only learned how to skim, but not actually travel.
Yeah.
Just, there's a difference. But anyway, so the two of them are fighting, and thing is, though, it's already getting late, and whenever night falls, Mashadar begins to appear in the city. So Mashadar, for those of you who don't remember, is a mist-like entity that possesses the city of Shadar Logoth. And any living thing that's caught in the city at night without any kind of protection, Mashadar will immediately come right at you and kill you. And staying too long in Shadar Logoth can actually corrupt you to its evil. Mm-hmm. So it's being in that city for any kind of extended period is bad for your health. I want to take a step back because I forgot to. Wait, no, I didn't forget. So Rand had actually been to Shadar Logoth earlier in this book.
Yeah.
The reason why he was there was because Rand also came up with a plan. Decided that it was. Rand had decided that one of the best things to counter the Dark One and his forces is to locate all of the waygates all across the Westlands and seal them. Because by this point, everyone knows that the Dark One is using the waygates to send his Trolloc forces throughout the Westlands. Because there are times where the Trollocs will just appear out of nowhere, right, in areas that they have no presence in, and attack Rand and his friends. And Rand realized it, and everyone already knew, and he got confirmation from Perrin that they were using the waygates. So Rand decided to go to Shadar Logoth himself because there is a waygate in Shadar Logoth. He had gone there earlier in the book and he had sealed it. Unfortunately, while he was there, one of the members of his Spear Maiden Guard got lost in the city and he had to leave her behind. So he thought she was dead. I'm bringing this up now because in the middle of his fight, he ends up running into that very Spear Maiden. Somehow she had managed to survive, but she had been driven mad by her long exposure to the city itself. But she runs off deeper into the city and he loses track of her. So Rand continues to search for Samael in the city. Real quick on the subject of the waygates, after the Shadar Logoth incident, Rand approaches the Ogier Loyal and asks him to travel throughout the lands and find all the waygates, as many waygates as he can find, and seal them permanently. So, of course, start with Caemlyn, Cairhien, Tyr, all of the waygates he can find. He sends one of his shaman with Loyal so that way they can travel to places a lot quicker. So that is what Loyal is doing. We're not going to see Loyal again until book 10.
Ooh.
Thought I mentioned that because he will pop up again. But in the middle of the fight, Rand finds himself in a large building, and Samael had placed traps all over the city, and he walked into one. Rand barely manages to avoid the trap, but it causes the ground beneath him to collapse, and before he falls in, Rand is rescued by a mysterious figure. A young man who's described as who's very pale with dark eyes and dark hair. Rand doesn't recognize the guy, but the guy tells Rand rather ominously, it's not your time to die yet. And while the guy is helping Rand up, Mashadar appears and begins coming into the room, and reacting, Rand shoots a beam of balefire at the mist. But as he's shooting the beam of balefire, he notices that this mysterious man is also using balefire. But he's very confused because he can't sense the man using the power. He can't sense the weaves or the power being used, which is weird because a man using the one power, Rand should have been able to see the weaves and sense him using the power, but he doesn't. He just sees the man lift his hand up and a beam of balefire just shoots out.
Yeah.
At one point, their two beams cross each other, and Rand they connect with each other, and Rand experiences this strange sensation, of images and emotions. And the other man is confused too because he experienced the same thing, but he immediately says, "All right, well, see ya," and dips. and it leaves Rand even more confused because um, how come he's confused? Like, how is that guy using Balefire, but he's not using? I didn't sense the power.
Yeah.
But either way, Rand decides to like leave to worry about that later and continue his search for Samael in the city. And he eventually does find Samael near the Waygate that I mentioned earlier. And Rand actually managed to sneak up on Samael, but before he could attack Samael, they both hear somebody screaming. And when Rand looks down towards the Waygate, he sees the Spear Maiden that had been left behind, and she unfortunately got caught by Mashadar. The mist had grabbed one of her legs, and it was about to kill her. And Rand, knowing how horrible it is to be killed by Mashadar, he instead uses a beam of balefire to kill her himself. Just put her out of her misery. Yeah.
Damn.
But the thing is that this distracted Rand. So when he looked away, this had distracted both Rand and Samael. So when he looked away and killed his Spear Maiden to keep her from, like, because there was no way he could save her from Mashadar in time. So he figured he'd put her out of her misery before it could kill her. The thing is, though, Mashadar had been sneaking up on Samael. So when Samael got distracted, it came up on him and it killed him.
Damn.
So I was like, when that happened, I was like, ah, well, that's disappointing.
Right.
What a way to go, man. But either way, the battle is won, and Rand decides to head back to Ilion. It's there in Ilion that he meets up with Bashir again, and Bashir informs him that they've secured the city, and the other counselors of and the other members of the High Council of Ilion. Those counselors present themselves to Rand, and they actually thank Rand because they knew that there was something off about Samael, who was using going under a different name, and they said that their actual king had disappeared a few days before, and Samael had been taking the reins of things. Rand reveals that man is most likely dead, that their king is most likely dead, and now Samael's also dead. And the counselors are relieved, and they thank Rand for helping them. And for his help, the High Counselor presents Rand with the laurel crown of Ilion. And he says, well, by right, you've taken Ilion. So you've taken Ilion. By right, this crown is yours. You're now, if you so wish, you are now king of Ilion. And Rand looks at the crown, and he notices that woven within the laurel-shaped wreath are like little blades, like swords. And Rand instead decides to rename the laurel crown to the Crown of Swords. And he takes the crown, places it on his head, and he is now king of Ilion.
Damn.
Yep.
He's been busy.
And he busy. So now Ilion is under his control. Rand now has control of 5 different nations: the Aiel, Tyr, Cairhien, Andor, and Ilion.
God damn.
Yep. So that's pretty much where the story ends with Rand. We're gonna go back to our girls back in Ebudar because things are about to get spicy for them as well. Yeah. Not spicy, not that kind of spicy, but crazy.
Cray.
So, after securing their bargain with Yathanmir, Elaine and Nynaeve are led to the Rahad by the kin, and it's there they lead them to the storeroom where the Sarangrial are being held. But when they reach it, they are confronted by dark friends being led by 2 sisters of the Black Aja. These sisters are some of the remaining sisters from the 13 that Elaine and Nynaeve had originally been sent to capture and track down.
Yeah.
So they're confronted by those 2 sisters. Elaine had gone upstairs to the storeroom itself with several of the kin. While they're up there, they're confronted by several dark friend thugs, including one mysterious man who when Elaine tries to restrain him with the power, her threads and weave vanished before they could touch him, so she couldn't affect him with the power. He knocks her out, and Matt, who had gone along with them, he rushed upstairs to try to help her and confronts this man. And when he confronts him, the man begins to like avoid his attacks with his spear, because Matt has his a Shundai spear, not a naginata, but it's kind of like similar to that Japanese spear, where it's like, it's a pole arm but with a curved blade at the top.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it's either way, he attacks this mysterious man with a spear, but every time he tries to land an attack, the man seems to like fold and flow around his attacks like water. Like, we're talking like Mr. Fantastic kind of stretching and weaving, ducking and weaving. And the man actually, this creature pins Matt down, and desperation Matt grabbed his foxhead pendant, which, if you remember, is a terangrial that protects him from the weave itself as well. And he strikes the man with his pendant, and when the pendant touches the man's skin, it begins to melt and flow like liquid. And this actually hurts the creature, and the creature jumps away from him, and rather than attack him further, it decides to just run away. When it runs away, it runs into a room, and when Matt follows it into the room, it's gone. So after that, Matt assesses the damage. Several of the kinswomen were killed by the creature. Elaine is okay. She tells him what happened, how the creature wasn't affected by her weaves. He goes back down to check on Nynaeve. Nynaeve had managed to, with the rest of Matt's guard, managed to ward off the two Aes Sedai. In fact, they had actually managed to capture them. So the two Black Aja sisters, and ward off the rest of his forces. Now, when the Dark Friends had attacked, they had managed to get into the storeroom and steal several boxes of terangrial. But when Elaine goes into the room and inspects it, she finds that the weather bowl is still there. So thankfully, that wasn't stolen. With the surviving band, they take all of the boxes in the storeroom and immediately go back to the palace. There, they finalize their deal with the Athanmir, and they make their plans to leave the city. Matt begins to make his own plans to leave. Like he said, like he stays behind to help, get the rest of his band out, and they're going to meet. He was planning on meeting the sisters later, because what they were going to do, they were going to head to a spot that the kin knew would be safe and isolated, where they can use the bowl without being disturbed. And then once they were done, they were going to come back to the city and gather the rest of their team and go back to Salinar. But just as soon as as Elaine, Nynaeve, the rest of their Aes Sedai, the kin, and the Athanmir, as soon as they leave the city, Elaine creates a gateway and they travel to a spot outside of the city. All right, so just as the girls travel out of the city with the group of Athanmir and kinswomen and Aes Sedai, the Matt begins gathering his men who are currently scattered around the city, and that is when the Shan invade. So they immediately create a blockade in the bay of the city. Their forces, they send a landing forces to assault the city itself, and the Damane begin wreaking havoc on the Eludaran forces. And Matt is trapped under a collapsed building, and it's at this point, this is where the book ends. It's such a cliffhanger. I'm like, no, not the Sean.
What a fucking cliffhanger.
Because I didn't mention this before, but throughout this book, there were hints that the Shan were about to attack. And it was kind of like that, like, it was kind of nerve-wracking because you're like, oh my god, are they going to attack? Are they going to attack? And then, like, this whole event happens where where the girls are attacked by the dark friends, and you're just like, oh, like completely distracted by that thing, and then like they leave to go go use the weather bowl, right? And then oh look, and then everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked.
Damn.
And but instead of the Fire Nation, it's the Shan.
Yeah.
And the Shan, like as we all know,
are terrifying.
It sounds like you're saying Chong. Sean. Sean, like your roommate.
Sean. Yeah, I've been saying Sean.
Okay.
Sean.
Okay, it's because I switched to my phone. Because you're like, I don't know. You sound weird now.
You sound weird.
You are weird.
Pot kettle.
So anyway, this is where the book ends. When I read this part, I just remembered something. Let's take a step back. So the book ends, but like I want to mention a few things that happened. So when Nynaeve went to go meet up with the Athanmir to organize their bargain and solidify everything, she's actually attacked by she's attacked from afar by Moghedien. So Moghedien realized she noticed Nynaeve heading to the docks so she could take a ferry to the Athanmir ship. And when she sees her, Moghedien finds a place, like a high position, and she looks for the boat that Nynaeve is on. And when she sees it, she shoots a blast of balefire at it, cutting the boat in half. And Nynaeve nearly drowns because the boat begins sinking, and she can't get out. So she's trying really hard to embrace the source to get out of it, but she still has to deal with her mental block. And eventually she actually gets completely trapped underwater and she nearly drowns. But it's at that moment where she's almost gonna die, where she's finally able to let go of everything and embrace the source. And she, because the thing about Sidar, the way you embrace Sidar is that you don't reach out for it and grab it and control it. You open yourself to it and you surrender to it, and you guide it from there. So open, surrender, guide. And it's at that moment where she nearly dies, where she's finally able to surrender, and it breaks her mental block, and now she can channel at will. And she was able to break herself out of the sinking boat, but she was dragged far underwater, and she still almost drowns. But at that point, Lan had shown up. He'd finally arrived in the city, and he saw where Nynaeve was going, and he was trying to follow her. But he sees Moghedien's attack, and he immediately tries to save her. And and he jumps in the water, and he does manage to grab her and pull her up. And Nynaeve ends up, like, when she sees Lan and realizes that he's there, she's so happy and overjoyed that she immediately is like, "All right, I'm not letting your ass go. We're getting married right here, right now."
Damn.
And she drags him to the Athanmir ship, and she's like, "All right, I'm here to finish making the bargain with y'all. But hey, do you guys do marriages? Like, do you officiate marriages? I need you to wed us right now. I'm marrying this bitch right here. I'm marrying this fool right now. We're doing this." So Nynaeve immediately marries Lan right on the spot, and Lan's kind of like, he's a very stoic man, but I think she gave him whiplash with how fast she put a ring on him.
Yeah.
And so yeah, there's that, and then everything else happens, and that's where the book is pretty much over. The book ends with Shan invading Ebu Dar, and sadly, we won't get to see them use the Weather Bowl until the next book. But don't worry, it happens right off the bat, and we actually get to see what happens with the Shan. Sadly, we won't figure out what happened to Matt until book 9. So for all book 8, you're kind of wondering, like, is he alive? Because it ended with him, like, last time we see him, a building collapses on him, and that's it. Lights out. We don't know if he's dead, if we're gonna if he's like a prisoner of the Shan, what happens.
Talk about
But
cliffhanger.
But we'll find out more. We'll find out more about him in book 9. But until then, we still got book 8 to do, which we will be doing next week. And book 8 is called Path of Daggers.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot happens in book 8. We see Rand. It's less conflicts, like actual like fights and conflicts, and it's more of like gets more into like the alliances and it gets into like the more in depth in like terms of people's allegiances to Rand. Elaine finally goes to Camelin to assume her place as the Queen of Andor, but she also has to face her own little political campaign, because it's not like, oh, so she's the Princess of Andor and the daughter heir, but she still has to get the support of the other noble houses of Camelin if she's going to assume the throne. So it's kind of like an election. It's like an election run, except she has to garner support from the other nobles before she can take the throne. And that's going to be hard for her to do because her mom kind of fucked things up for her. But it wasn't really her mom's fault. It was Robin manipulating her. So still, it causes more problems. Rand has to deal with betrayal and also like his loyalties and allegiances and things like that. So we're going to see more. We're going to see more of that in book 8, which we will be talking about next week.
So until then, thank y'all for listening and or watching, and catch y'all next time. Until then, peace.
Bye.